evidence for mental telepathy between UAP pilots and observers on the ground in the Hudson and Wallkill River valleys of New York, based on an 11-year study from 1992 to 2003 by Dr. Bruce Cornett with the help of Dr. Ellen Crystal. This is an infrared map of northeastern United States showing the position of the UFO corridor across New York into Massachusetts. Dr. Ellen Crystal began her study of the Pine Bush UAP phenomenon in 1980 before Hynek and Imbrogno published their book in 1986 on the night siege or UFO phenomena in the Hudson River Valley. My involvement with the Pine Bush phenomenon began in 1992 when I discovered that I lived near a UFO hotspot in Middletown, New York. I contacted Ellen Crystal, who wrote about this hotspot in her book Silent Invasion. Published in 1991, I went into the field with her and saw UAP on my first night out. I took time exposures to document flight paths of UAP and recorded their sounds. Then I began a 24 square mile magnetic survey in order to detect underground electromagnetic activity. These are the shapes of the UAP that I encountered during an 11-year study in the Wallkill River Valley of New York. Most are distinctive from conventional aircraft, being triangular in shape or diamond shape. But then we also had shapes that were resembled and copied, mimicked that of conventional aircraft, as shown by the DC-9 type in the center, which had no external engines on it and no windows on its fuselage or in front over the flight deck. All of these UAP could stop, travel at very low speeds, or accelerate to supersonic speeds.
But it doesn't look like a jet. Wait a minute. This is no jet. I'm looking through here. It's just like... My God. What? Boy, you guys got good sound here. Lots of turbine sound. Hey, it is just staying right back there behind the trees.
I hear it now.
Okay, we got another light on top. This is the diamond. Oh my God. This is definitely craft. Oh, that top light is moving forward. And I bet it's going to come down to the side of the other one. I see the outline. It's a perfect triangle.
Yep, it's a manta, isn't it?
Yep. Well, wait a minute. We got a light at the tail, way out in the back. Notice as the lights are flashing, it's not illuminating the tail. My tail light is not flashing. So that... Oh, that's typical sound of the manta ray.
Well, that sounds like a
Well, that's exactly what the manta ray does. I have a perfect copy of this. Yeah, that is the manta ray. And it makes a sound like that. Whoa. Just turned on searchlights. What the hell? Yeah, pointing down.
Cornet framed a distant image in his Minolta XG7 camera viewfinder. I went to push the shutter button. Suddenly, a voice in my head loudly said, "Wait!" I looked at the pilot to my left and at the Japanese cameraman to my right, but neither was talking to me or looking at me. I went to take the picture again, but as I started to push the shutter button, the same voice said, "Wait!" So I waited, holding my camera and pointing at the same area. Suddenly, the same voice said, "Now!" I pushed my camera button. The witnesses in the helicopter saw a bright flash of light marking the path of an object flying in front of the helicopter, traversing the valley in a second. The helicopter was gently bounced by a shock wave. The pilot moaned in surprise. There was no sound. This type of encounter happened 2 more times in a period of 20 minutes. 1/1000th second shutter speed. Michael Stratt thought that one of the large craft that people had been seeing during the night siege in the 1980s might have been a prototype to the B-2 bomber, and he went about comparing it with diagrams and models that people had proposed to be an experimental human technology rather than an alien spacecraft. But it wasn't until October 1997 that we got evidence that Michael Stratt's theory is correct. A group of us from MUFON gathered on the farm fields of the Owen Dairy Farm in October 1997 in order to see what was flying over that area at night. We were treated to a very large boomerang-shaped aircraft that came in to land at Stewart Air Force Base to the east. We even captured on radio communication between the pilot and the air traffic controller, asking that the runway lights be turned up nice and bright. During the night siege in the 1980s along the Hudson River and Taconic Parkway, very large ships were observed by many people, thousands of people, and these continue to be observed in the 1990s. Ellen Crystal observed the Westchester Boomerang, as it came to be known, in the Hudson Valley along Route 17 just west of Chester, New York. I show pictures of this large craft that has a tail light sticking out way in behind it, much like a separate orb. And Ellen stood on the side of Route 17 with her video camera and recorded that craft rotating above her. And it's one of the best images that we have of this enigmatic machine that hovered in the night sky as traffic passed underneath it. During a 23-year period between 1980 and 2003, thousands of people observed UAP in the Hudson and Wallkill River valleys of New York. I personally recorded over 140 sightings with time exposures, videos, and audio. Then, 21 years later, another occurrence occurred in the Northeast, but this time involving drones throughout the Northeast that involved at least 650 drone-related sightings between 2024 and 2025. In addition to military and hobby drones, observers reported orbs, light orbs, or plasma orbs that appeared, and some of which they saw transforming into drones. Plasma orbs have been observed in both the 1990s and the most recent November, December, and January sightings of drones and orbs. These are not conventional technology by any stretch of the imagination. They demonstrate differences that cannot be duplicated by human aircraft or drones. Bright white orbs have been reported flying with drones in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and Connecticut from November to January, February of 2025. Some of these orbs have been witnessed transforming into small single engine airplanes. Back in 1992, I had such an experience in the Wallkill River Valley, where along 211 East, I observed a bright orb coming towards me and transforming stepwise into a single engine airplane, even though I could not see the physical structure of the plane. Its navigation lights, etc., matched that of a small plane, and the sound it produced was that of a small single engine plane. The UAP and drones that have been witnessed from 1980 to recently come in various sizes, from very large at 300 to 900 feet in width to medium to small at only 5 to 10 feet in width or length. Whereas the UAP that I witnessed in the Wallkill and Hudson valleys during the 1990s were of conventional aircraft size because they were trying to disguise themselves as conventional aircraft to the residents and people on the ground. The triangles even had navigation lights in positions resembling that of conventional aircraft at night. The diamond-shaped manta ray even had the capability of shortening or retracting its tail in order to resemble a triangle. The drones in UAP that have been flying over New Jersey and New York and Connecticut during November 2024 to 2025 are much smaller than the ones that we've been seeing in New York during the 80s and 90s. There have been so many sightings of drones in UAP in the last 3 months over New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania that it almost becomes a competition of who can create the most convincing drone in the sky. And it becomes a problem when people are describing orbs, spherical orbs that transform into drones or into small planes. These are probably not made by human technology, whereas others clearly resemble those of man-made drones. George Filer is trying to keep track of the drones, which appear to originate from the Atlantic Ocean. They are still flying regularly in New Jersey as of January 10th, 2025. The large ones, according to Colonel Joe APEC, are as large as vans. It appears the government has apparently told the media to stop reporting them. George Filer's contacts in New Jersey and the area east of Philadelphia, Medford, are still reporting them. They have narrow wings about 10 feet long with flashing lights, including a bright red tail light. The entire fuselage is lit up with strong white lights, and some appear to have searchlights, perhaps to find food. Our deer have disappeared for now. These drones that look more like UAP or UFOs, and they regularly pass over military facilities. Smaller 10-inch drones are flying near most of our aircraft. In flight, the wings appear stronger than the photo, but seem too small to function to provide lift or aerodynamic functions. iPhone cameras pick up a clicking sound, but no engine noises. Courtesy Major George A. Filer III, retired U.S. Air Force. Drones come in various sizes, from very large to very small. Many of them, even the small ones, seem to have wings, but of questionable aerodynamic function. In one particular case, a Boeing 707 light drone or craft unfolded its wings. When we first saw it, it was a cylinder, and then it flew away from us, and we chased it down country roads where it stopped and turned around on a dime and flew back over us. In other cases, we have these tiny drones that Robert Scheidt has documented off the California coast near Los Angeles and Marina del Rey, in which they have wing-like appendages and chase helicopters, government aircraft, over the bay, quite frequently diving into the ocean or coming back out. These are clearly not man-made craft. A Boeing 707 light drone or craft unfolded its wings. When we first saw it, it was a cylinder, and then it flew away from us, and we chased it down country roads where it stopped and turned around on a dime and flew back over us. compared to recent reports of drone swarms in the Northeast. What was scientifically documented in the field between 1992 and 2003, further northwest into New York and the Wallkill and Hudson Valley areas. Supersonic flyby, silent with no violent shock wave. Use of plasmas rather than lamps for lights. Performed aerial maneuvers and created sky glyphs. Targeted individuals on the ground and went out of their way to make contact with humans. Can fly silently or project various types of sounds. Can influence electrical devices remotely. Typically, takeoffs and landings occur in farm fields, not airports, and they can pass through trees and into the ground. Aerobatic performances done at night below 1,000 feet altitude over populated neighborhoods, right-angle turns, can move their lights independent of the craft and can time those movements to the thoughts and actions of people on the ground. The pilots of the UAP knew that I was taking time exposures, so they created skyglyphs in the sky as a form of communication. One common skyglyph was the letter S, and it was performed multiple times. This symbol could come to mean many things, anything from ship, star, solar system, sun, but the important thing is that both those craft that had individual lights and plasma lights and those that were orbs all created these types of events for my camera deliberately with intent. And this is not something that one sees happening in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, etc., for the more recent drone swarms that are being reported. There was a much greater connection, intellectual and mental connection, between the pilots and my camera on the ground. After starting to photograph near Pine Bush in June of 1992, by June of 1993, it became clear that the pilots of these craft were creating skyglyphs as a form of communication. One spectacular happened on the 2nd of June 1993, where an orb ascended from the tree line up into the clouds and then traveled south. This orb, right before the shutter closed on the first time exposure, sent out an orange orb from it that descended rapidly towards the ground and did a series of very distinctive loops that formed a symbol known as the treble clef, but it was reversed in orientation from that of a normal treble clef, a symbol for sound. But it wouldn't be until I had recorded many UAP sounds that I began to realize that they were creating their own kind of music, and this music or sound followed the treble clef, but the symbol was inverted or reversed, like the sound was a reverse Doppler effect.
Whoops. Still not clear. I think this is the military something or other. Whoops. Shaking. Whoa, it's loud. Wait a minute. That body is solid. That body is solid. Where the hell is it? Did you see the body on that?
Yeah.
It was solid. That was a solid body. It was a solid triangle body with extra things in the front and back. Shit. I took the video camera away because I wanted to get a better look at it. It up. Whoops. Still not clear. I think this is the military something or other. Whoops. Shaking. Whoa, it's loud. Wait a minute. That body is solid. That body is solid. Where the hell is it? Did you see the body on that?
Yeah.
It was solid. That was a solid body. It was a solid triangle body with extra things in the front and back. Shit. I took the video camera away because I wanted to get a better look at it.
Whoa. Just turned on searchlights. What the hell? Yeah, pointing down.
The manta ray makes U-turn over Pat and me in a field and produces oscillations. Frustrated by the oscillations, not knowing if they were due to camera vibration, I hit my camera in time exposure B so that I would have a clear distinction between UAP oscillations and camera vibrations. Conclusion: the pilot deliberately makes his lights oscillate right after I open camera shutter. So how did the pilot know when I opened my camera shutter? Encounter with Pat and Bruce on 26 March 1994 near Pine Bush, New York. A triangular craft hovered at the end of West Searsville Road and waited for me to set up my camera. It produced a light tail just before beginning its run towards us. Note: light tails involve only the central two lights and not the outboard running lights, indicating intentional behavior. The pilot knew when the time exposure began. Black and white infrared picture of a craft slowing to a stop over a farm field and waiting for the camera shutter to close before diving out of sight and disappearing into the ground. The lights on these craft are not lamps. They are hot plasmas that register intensely on infrared film. Lou has said all along, we are not alone. Now he has added, whatever that means. But he has emphasized that these are completely unknown technology. They are not domestic or foreign. He says that this is not a government psyop. So what does that leave?
That's alien. No lights underneath. They're all at the outer edges. Nice sound. Jeez. Oh, sure.
what was scientifically documented in the field. UAP can move their lights independent of the craft and can time those movements to the thoughts and actions of people on the ground. UAP lights would oscillate soon after I opened camera shutter for time exposures. When I stopped thinking, open shutter, or close shutter, the oscillations after open-close shutter stopped. The pilots of the UAP showed me that they knew what I was thinking and made light movements synced with my thoughts. Humans cannot do that. A UAP encounter on the 5th of October, 1993, near Pine Bush, New York. This UFO produces distinct and different changes in light trace just after the camera shutter opens. The first one, 22 seconds, it brightens at the beginning of its light trace. The second, 12 seconds, it produces a tail at the beginning of its light trace just after the shutter opened. And the third, 10 seconds, it produces an oscillation that dampens very slowly. Very few witnesses have recorded similar phenomena, but then very few field investigators have given our visitors photographic time exposures with analog film. On the 7th of July, I had an encounter with Ellen Crystal of a strange UAP flying west along Bruin Turnpike, west of Wallkill, New York, and we pulled over and stopped as we saw it coming towards us like a pair of car headlights, except those headlights were above the trees and it was paralleling the highway. I got out my camera and set it up, and it stopped and waited for me to get ready to take its picture. And then it started to move. And every time I advanced the film to the next frame, it dropped in altitude and then continued its path above the trees. And finally, the last time, it was going through the branches of the top of the trees, and it stopped and disappeared over Dwarkill River. In order to determine if the UAP pilot was reading my mind and therefore knew when to produce an oscillation in its lights, I delayed saying or thinking open shutter, and when I did delay it, the oscillations were delayed also. Sometimes when I said close shutter, the pilot would produce oscillations just before the shutter closed. And I wanted to test that hypothesis also. Was the pilot reading my mind? So I would say close shutter before I closed the shutter. I waited and then closed the shutter, and the oscillations occurred coincident with my thought or statement of closed shutter and not with the actual closing of the camera shutter.
Geez, looks like a congregation, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what the hell? What is going on there?
I've never seen this before.
There's 4. I got all 4 in the video.
On the 29th of April, 1993, the sightings camera crew showed up at the Wild Farm along West Searsville Road in Montgomery, New York, and set up their cameras. Ellen and I, along with her friends Rich, Ralph, John, Keith, and Steve, also showed up and waited for something to happen. The sightings camera crew had come from California in order to view the phenomenon of the Pine Bush UAPs. What we didn't realize was that 6 craft would show up at 8:49 p.m. and put on a spectacular performance before our cameras, 2 of which would make runs at the cameras, turn in front of us, and then fly back and dive below the tree level and disappear. A black triangle one of the craft made a run at our cameras, turned in front of us, and then circled back to its area of origin. Then the manta ray came at the cameras and turned in front of us sideways, projecting its lights on its bottom and flying directly past us at well below stall speed with a loud sound like that of jet engines. What is important about this encounter is that it was filmed by multiple cameras and witnessed by 8 or 9 people. The craft made similar tails on their lights when my camera was open to take a picture of them. I have 4 of them in which all the tails were generated at the same time, but they were not due to camera vibration or movement.
No, well, not even a C5. The C5 we would still be able to see
I
wings and
remember we seen
fuselage.
C5s and you'd hear them
Yeah.
5 miles away.
Yeah.
We didn't hear
See,
that
that came to us and turned at us. You know, this is awfully big not to hear sound now.
And just low to the ground.
Oh boy. Yeah, this is shipped. I mean, a C5 isn't going to bank like that. The hell? Oh, look at this. The hell?
Holy shit.
The hell is that?
Non-humans have been on the earth for hundreds of thousands of years, and they have left evidence of their existence to all our civilizations since the last ice age. They are nonviolent and very patient with us, but are getting frustrated at how humans are afraid of beings that look and act different from us and are more capable than us. Even our government is afraid of how humans will react if their true nature is revealed, which is why disclosure will never be official. Can humans accept their superior intellect and capabilities, and how they can communicate with us silently by voices in our minds? However, if you seek them out, they will educate you as they have educated me. How do I know that they were reading my mind and responding with movements of their lights and sounds?